tell me, as a major gas company in the region, of course, here in the UAE and beyond, how important is it that somebody like yourself would attend a gathering like this? How do you find it useful?
I find it extremely useful. Obviously, we carry out business planning. That is over a 1 to 3 year cycle. And then we have further projections to a 10-year time frame. So clearly, oil prices is an extremely important part of our business planning process. And whilst we get a lot of inputs from a variety of different sources, banks, for example, in terms of oil price projections, to see really some fundamental science going on, which is what takes place here with these major entities such as the IEA and OPEC and IEF, is extremely important for me to give me a sense of where oil prices are going in the future and therefore to be able to plan my business accordingly.
Now, there are many reports that come out on an annual basis, and over the years some of them have been quite different, in fact. Are you encouraged, or do you also find this probably more useful and more interesting when you look into the numbers now that we're beginning to see a bit more convergence in these reports?
Yeah, I think first of all, if you contrast the forecasts that are being made by IEA and OPEC and IEF against the forward curves that you see in the financial markets, you see a very substantial difference because these entities are taking a much longer term view. Having said that, whilst there are clearly some differences in forecasts and projections going forwards, what I was very agreeably surprised by sitting in the session this morning was actually how much these forecasts resemble each other and how the essential underlying trends are very clear. There are some minor changes perhaps in terms of timing and in terms of absolute numbers, but in terms of direction they are very, very similar.
And will you find, when you're looking at the data, do you find that particularly useful for you in terms in your strategy and policy people in terms of making longer term decisions whereby you can actually look at these numbers?
Well, both shorter and longer term. I think one of the features that I picked up on this morning was that both IEA and OPEC are seeing a softer supply-demand balance in 2016. I think by the end of last year, 2015, the projections were that there would be a deficit building up at the end of this year. And what I've seen from this morning is that deficit is not going to be opening up to the extent that was forecast a few months ago. And so that indicates that softness in oil prices is perhaps going to extend for a little bit longer than certainly I had anticipated. That's extremely important for me in terms of managing my business in the short to medium term. It also helps, of course, to see when that supply balance will come back into equilibrium, and because that's an indicator of when oil prices should start to firm up. And seeing projections of when that will happen is also helpful for me in terms of my medium to longer term forecasting.
And also, when we looked at some of those figures too, we saw the growth in the natural gas market. And of course, being a main gas company as well, this is also good, probably figures that you are aware of, but also good to have it also, again, reinforced.
Clearly, indeed. I mean, COP21, decarbonisation, these are trends that are clearly going to progress into the future. Gas is extremely well positioned as a low carbon fossil fuel to take advantage of the increasing restrictions and regulations coming into play with respect to emissions. I don't think we should be complacent in the gas sector, however. I think we need to make our case to policymakers about how important gas is as a contributory fuel in the transition period to a low carbon future.